Hello, this is Rob Lambert with AssetProtectionTraining.com. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for visiting us again. Today, we take on the second rule of asset protection. Just a reminder, you remember the first. What you don't own can't be taken from you. If you haven't seen that video, take a look at it. But today we're on to the second fundamental rule. And this is the rule where the rubber meets the road. This is where it gets interesting. This is where you put your opponents in a position that it costs them $10 to collect 10 cents. And here's the rule. No country in the world automatically enforces U.S. judgments. Repeat, no country in the world automatically enforces U.S. judgments. Think about it. The world is not like the United States. We have 50 states. Every single state is required to enforce judgments from any other state. It's because of the full faith and credit clause that's in the Constitution. There's no such thing as a full faith and credit clause worldwide. Japan, England, France, Germany, China, Italy, they're not required to enforce U.S. judgments. Sometimes there's treaties that make it a little bit easier, but in every single case, there's at least a mini trial. It's not, by the way, it's not the same with arbitration awards. Martin Domke, a good friend and mentor of mine, he's now dead, founded the American Arbitration Association. And he spent his whole life forcing and massaging the international community in New York to adopt arbitration treaties, making arbitration awards much easier to enforce internationally than regular judgments from litigation. So I stay away from arbitration provisions if possible, and you should too if you do business internationally. But be that as it may, in the United States, we can register judgments, enforce them easily. No major procedural impediments. Not true when you take a judgment in the United States and go abroad to enforce it. And by moving money abroad, by moving assets abroad and out of the jurisdiction in the United States, you force your opponent to hurdle some very significant barriers. The first barrier is they have to hire a lawyer. And in America, we're used to lawyers being commodities. We're burdened with 1,300,000 lawyers. Places like China have less than 200,000. We have a lot of out of work, unemployed lawyers willing to do anything for almost any compensation agreement. I'm hiring lawyers at $25 an hour on Craigslist right now if I need research done. A lot of out of work lawyers. It's a different story. You go abroad, you're going to find a much smaller number of lawyers. You're going to find them much more ethical, and you're going to find that none of them are willing to do it on a contingent fee basis. Can you imagine some contingent fee litigator getting a judgment for $5 million against you in the United States? He's going home counting his money right now. But can you imagine the same guy shelling out $250,000 to pay some lawyer in Switzerland in cash to go after your protected funds just because you moved it from Bank of America in California to Credit Suisse or Pictet Bank in Switzerland? No, they're not going to do that. They're going to really have a problem with pursuing you abroad. Why? Because contingent fee litigators are like common burglars. But they don't like me either. They're like common burglars, and they take the easy pickings. They want what they can get their hands on without too much work. They're not going to spend their own money. And by the way, they're the first people in my door as soon as they get their first big hit. And they realize we live in a violent world, a legally violent world, where in the United States your money is available to your creditors unless you've protected it well. But the first hurdle is they're going to have to hire a lawyer. You've just made it extremely expensive. Second, in most countries, they're going to have to post a bond to pay your legal fees if you win. Think about that. This isn't some little $5,000 bond. This is $25, $50, $250,000 type bond. Oftentimes a full cash bond, so the money's there, unless you can get an insurance company that they trust and know that will simply write a check. Unless you can get that type of insurance company to give you a bond, you're going to have to post cash. So you're going to have to put up double what you would normally have to spend just to go after the money abroad. And the real problem that they have, and this is one of the other rules later on, is that the funds can easily move. What does it take you to move money? It takes you 5, 10, 15 minutes to authorize a transfer. Your opponent won't even know the money's moved, but your opponent may spend 6 months litigating, and if they won, and I've never seen anybody win after a large number of lawsuits, if they win, it's not going to happen, but if they win, they're going to find that the money's not there. It's really a dead end. This gives you the power. It's game theory. This gives you the power in those circumstances where you've taken control of your assets. You've decided you live in a bad world where people will take your money if they can. This gives you the power to make it so that they think twice about going after you. It's game theory. People don't spend $10 to collect a dollar unless they're suing on principle. And who in their right mind, except the ACLU, people like that, sue on principle? The answer, nobody. It's my hope that this has been helpful to you. Keep watching our rules. We have lots and lots of videos that go into the in-depth aspects of asset protection. We'll definitely give you the tools to actually analyze, to pick the right people, to even do some parts of it yourself. But if you take anything away from this, take away the fact that you no longer have to be vulnerable to anybody. Take control of your life and stop the professional takers. If you spend 10% of the time you spend making money protecting it, you will be safe and you will sleep well at night. Thank you very much for listening.